Hello, welcome to my video. This is part of a series of videos all about black powder, how to play it, understanding the rules. It's designed with the new American Civil War miniatures. I figured there'll be a lot of people starting the American Civil War and Wargaming black powder because of the new Battle in a Box from Warlord Games. It's got me certainly excited. I've been a black powder gamer and American Civil War gamer, so it's good that it's came together for that. When I am talking about the rules today, I've not seen the translation document yet from Warlord Games. They will be reducing the scales from the regular rulebook, as that is designed for 28mm miniatures, to something more fitting the smaller 10 to 15mm miniatures. I have covered this previously in a video called Black Powder, A Question of Scale. So if you get my thoughts on that, hunt down that video. So, black powder. So the turn sequence of black powder is the first player, we'll say a blue player, will have his command phase where he commands his troops and moves them. Then he'll do shooting and then hand-to-hand combat. Then it'll be the red player's phase and they'll go through the same command, shooting, hand-to-hand combat. Once he's done his, the first turn is finished. You will then move on to the second turn and the blue player will always be the first one to go. Key concept for black powder is when you construct your force, as I said before, you construct it with brigades, regiments into brigades and brigades into army. Your brigadier can only command the troops that were assigned to him when you constructed your force. So the force in front of us here is 3 regiments of line and an artillery battery, all limbered up in march formation advancing along a road. And your brigadier will give orders to his brigade, and that is a primary method of moving troops up to battle. When you're in battle line within 12 inches of the enemy, you will have the option to, instead of being ordered by brigadier, you will have the option to move by initiative, which is only one move, but you don't need to test to see if that's obeyed. When we're talking about a move, we're talking about one of 3 things. First one is physically moving a distance. That is one move. Second thing is physically changing formation. So remember, we've got march column, we've got line, and we've got an assault column. The other thing you can do with a move is charge the enemy. So whenever I say move, that's the 3 things that you can do with that move. The advantage of being commanded by a brigadier is you can have up to 3 moves in one turn. So if you are needing to advance up and change formation, that would be maybe 2 or 3 moves. When you do, at the start of a command phase, you will do initiative moves first, and I'm going to come to that after I've described brigadiers issuing orders to their troops. So what is an order? So in this instance, the brigadier wants to get his troops up in a defensive line next to the farmhouse here. He can give an order to as many units in his brigade as he wants, and he can issue multiple orders to units within his brigade. A unit can only have one order given to it, be that initiative order or brigade order. So in this instance, Brigadier Hood here wants to get two regiments deployed in line at the edge of the field in line with the farmhouse. He wants them in line. If lines won't fit, he'll take an attack column formation as well. Actually, in the rules, they have the same rules attributed to them. He wants artillery deployed next to the farmhouse. That will keep their flank well defended. And he wants a 3rd regiment brought up, stood behind the main line in support. So what we now need to do, once we've phrased our order, is work out the dice roll. Every commander has a command rating. Average and normal commanders, and most commanders in the game, will be 8. Poor commanders will be 7. Good commanders will be 9. So we'll take his command as being an 8. We will apply certain modifiers. The enemy isn't within 12 inches. I've done all my measurements in advance, that's okay. So that would be a penalty. The other penalty would be if the brigadier was too far away, further than 12 inches himself. For every 12 inches to this command, that's an additional penalty. He's not, he's right next to him. Now he does get bonuses because we're a march column, which is normally +1. We're a march column on a road, so that actually gives us +2. So his command rating now is 10. What we need to do now is determine how well the order is obeyed. So the order will take us 1 to move the troops to where we want them to, and another 1 to change formations. So we're going to need 2 moves worth of orders. So our target number is 10. If we roll 10 or -1 from 10, which is 9, we get 1 move towards completing that. If we roll 8, we get 2 moves towards completing that, which is what we need. If we roll 7 or less, we get 3 moves to completing that, which is more than what we need. If we do roll 7 or less, we can't do anything with the third order because the troops haven't been ordered to do anything with it. So what I'm going to do is roll a dice, and I've rolled a 6, which will give us the 3 moves, which will be enough to command the brigade to do exactly what I want. So I would measure the range. When you move a unit, it can move, provided it's further 12 inches away from the enemy, which it is because I've pre-measured before. You can move them as however you want, twisting, turning, manoeuvring, however you want, as long as no base moves further than the 12 inches per 1 move. So as I said before, I know the distances, so they're within 12 inches, so they get a 12-inch move is the first move, so they're going to move up to here. They move to here, and the artillery moves up to the farmhouse protecting the flank. And this regiment moves up to form that support we were talking about. Second one is change formation. So this unit changes its formation to line. This unit here, as you can see now, there isn't distance for line, but I had said if necessarily form the attack formation we talked about, the attack column, which is, I always like to leave a wee bit of a gap between my regiments so I can tell what they are. And finally, the limbers deploy the artillery. And this unit can form a line in support. The other thing to note about artillery is obviously we moved it with limbers there. If the artillery is deployed like that and I want to move them, I can manhandle them, in which case the artillery would get to move 6 inches on its own, forwards or backwards. When you are now deployed within 12 inches of an enemy, your movement can only be in your front quarter or back quarter, front or back, when you're within firing 12 inches of the enemy, as seen. Another thing a brigadier can do is, supposing he just give the orders to advance to the line to these 2 regiments and the guns, he's got his 3rd unit. So that was 1 order. Now we can issue another separate order to this unit. Supposing he's got some threat developing to the right and he wants a regiment stood to the right to defend it. So he orders them to advance to the right, approximately 1 move to bring them in line with the wood and form line. So again, target number is 8 plus 2 cost in line, which gives us a 10. There's no modifiers to affect that, so let's roll to see what we've done. Now we rolled a 4 there, but supposing we'd rolled an 11, that would be a fail. When it fails, a unit in line column, a unit in march column, I do apologise, if they fail, still gets 1 move. Okay, so I could take that 1 move, and they would try and obey, so they'd move to the position, but they wouldn't be able to form a line. However, I've got my army commander next to the brigadier, so I could use his ability 1 re-roll a turn. He can be next to any brigadier to give that re-roll. And I've rolled a 12 this time. Now a 12 is what you call a blunder. This means that the troops have totally misunderstood the order and what they should do, and there's a blunder table to roll on. So they're basically out of your control and in the hands of the gods. You might have seen in another video that I've done of the great game Replayed Waterloo, which was 100 players recreating the Battle of Waterloo with 23,000 28mm models. I was the far right of the French army, so I spent the first part of the day attacking the Nassau. Then when the Prussians turned up, I pulled my troops back into a defensive formation, and the last roll to get my artillery into position, I managed to blunder with them. And the artillery rolled on the blunder table, which was advance forward as far as you could go and deploy. Which for that artillery meant that they advanced right into the pincers of the Prussian assault, but they were the French unit that got the furthest east in the entire battle. But all they needed to do was pull back into my defence perimeter, so that left a big hole in my defence perimeter which I had to plug, and the Prussians stormed in, and anyway it didn't end very well, all down to one blunder. And that was with a retest as well. So initiative orders. Now when we're fighting, if you're within 12 inches of the enemy, like I said before, you take an initiative order. An initiative order can be charge the enemy or move forwards or backwards, as discussed before. And you only get one move. The other thing you could do is change formation. And where that becomes important is, see the Union here, they've got two regiments in line. Perhaps they want to bring a third regiment up into the firing position to support them, or maybe it's a battery of guns. So what we could do with initiative is change formation, giving us space for another unit to come into the middle, occupy that line and bring more guns to bear. Initiative is really powerful because you're not going to suffer a blunder and you're not going to fail with your officers, brigade commanders' roles. One thing to consider with movement is disorder. This can occur to you in the shooting phase. When you're disordered, when your unit becomes disordered, what I will always do is turn around the command stand, so the colours are facing the wrong way to indicate it's disordered. If it's disordered, it cannot move, except for via initiative, in which case it can take a disorderly retreat and move backwards away from the enemy that it's opposing. Just line that up. So like I said before, moving in black powder is really simple. Each move, depending on how many moves you've got, can allow you to change formation, as we've seen. And the three that matters is the line, what we call the attack column, or a column of march. I say the attack column has more rules attributed to the Napoleonic period. You don't get those rules in the American Civil War. When you change formation, you basically pivot round a middle stand. When you change formation as well, you can end up facing whichever direction you want. What you find with black powder is a movement section. Actual movement is, as long as you're further than 12 inches away from the enemy, you can pretty much manoeuvre how you want. You could twist, you could turn, as long as no base ends up moving more than 12 inches and you finish in the same formation you started with. As change of formation is a manoeuvre, a move in itself. Now, another thing to consider is interpenetration, and this means units passing through units. So I'm just going to set these up. So this unit here has been fighting, its stamina ratings, it's taking some hits to its stamina, it's disordered. The Brigadier wants to bring up another regiment and have that advance in front of it so that it can take its place in the line of battle. This regiment ultimately will be able to come back away from the enemy. The Glory Hallelujah supplement has some special rules for this, for the American Civil War. I think it's page 59, and it's "Oh God, hurry up" is the rule. And what you do is, when you get to manoeuvre through, interpenetrate a unit, you take a morale test. So the morale of this unit is 4. So if I roll a 4 or more, and I've rolled a 2, which I'll come back to, if I roll a 4 or more, I've rolled a 6, we move through and move on okay. We basically ignore the fact we've moved through this unit. If I roll a 3, and that's 1 less than my target number of 4, I move through, and then immediately stop. It's taken more time than I wanted to interpenetrate the unit. If I rolled a 2, I would move up to behind this unit, then stop. Other thing to consider is if my unit has taken no stamina hits, we call this being fresh, it gets +1, so that 2 would become a 3, and in that case the unit would advance through and then stop. That's interpenetration. And interpenetration occurs when your middle base has to go through. So if I move these over a bit, in this case here, that middle base could move through fine without that interpenetration rule. So I have mentioned if the enemy is within 12 inches, your options start to become limited. Change formation, move forward, move backwards, or charge. When you do charge, it is simple as being within range, either move for initiative or with a command, move in. What you find with charging is one unit will fight one unit. You don't generally have many occasions when multiple units fight one unit. Other units will be available in support. We'll cover this more in hand-to-hand combat. When you do charge, your enemy has some charge reactions. And that is stand and receive, which case they just stand and we go to the combats. In the combat phase, closing fire, artillery and infantry, if engaged in the front, can fire on the enemy. Evade, cavalry and horse artillery can attempt to evade, retreat from the charges. Counter-charge, cavalry charge to the front, can charge whatever's charging them. Or if you're attacked in the flank, you could turn your unit to face. And those are the charge options, what you can do. So there we have it. That is all the basic rules covered for command and control and for manoeuvres. Actually, once you get into the flow of things, remember initiative moves come first in the movement phase, and they're for units within 12 inches of the enemy, or whatever that is changed to in the supplement for that. And then when you're issuing orders, it's your command value, apply the modifiers, giving you a target number, and equal to or -1, you get 1 move towards the order you've given your unit or brigade. -2, you get 2 orders towards, and -3, you get 3 orders towards. A manoeuvre, a move, is physically moving the models, changing formation, or charging. And Black Powder really is a set of rules designed to be played with a spirit of fun, and the movement phase represent that. There's no quibbling about kind of some rules you might get complex about wheeling, etc. It really is as simple as it can be in a war game's rules. There you go. That is part 1. Part 2 will be shooting, where we'll start looking at how units shoot at each other and how you start tracking casualties and what that means for your units. If you've got any questions about what we've covered today, please shot them to me. I'm happy to answer them. I do like talking war games, and I do try and respond to all the questions and comments put on the channel. But let me know how you're getting on, and I look forward to talking to you in part 2.